Check out our new crafted elements chessboard blanks. These are 1/2-inch Baltic birch blanks that are CNC cut. We've engraved 64 squares to make chessboard or checkerboard patterns, and these are super easy to paint up, fill with resin, and then cover with resin to make epic looking chessboards. And in this video, we're gonna do a really quick project and show you just how you can do it. The very first thing you're gonna wanna do is just give everything a quick sand. These come off the CNC machine. We do process these, but just in case you've got any sort of striations or kind of random pieces of wood that you don't wanna get caught in your resin, use a power sander with 80 grit or 120 grit paper or a sponge and just go over all the sides because we wanna prep this for paint. Next thing you want to do is either stain or paint this piece. I would highly recommend actually using a filler primer. You can actually get that from most hardware stores, even automotive stores. It's a high density, high solids primer. Gets into all the little grooves and fills them in so it'll look much nicer after you've painted it. I'm going to go ahead and take this outside. I'm going to primer it, we're going to paint it, then we're going to bring it back in and we're going to do a little bit of a resin pattern on it. I brought the board back inside. We painted it black with some black spray paint. It's filled in pretty good. I'm gonna set it up on my table, the plastic. So what I've done is I've mixed up some Total Boat Maker epoxy with some Bora Bora Blue from Black Diamond and some Silver Pearl from Black Diamond. Those are my two offsetting colors. Mix them up separately in pails, and I'm gonna use these little squeezy bottles to independently distribute them throughout these squares. These squares, I believe, are an 1/8 inch deep, and my recommendation is that you use more pigment than you usually would because you do have a thin pour. If you don't use enough pigment, you're gonna end up seeing the paint underneath or the black underneath, which is one of the reasons we do have to paint this and not leave it a wood color. So I'm gonna go ahead and distribute my resin into my little bottles, and I will start filling this checkerboard or chessboard up. Pretty easy, kind of soothing to fill up all those squares and make them look really cool. We're gonna hit that really quickly with our torch. We'll do it once now, probably come back in another half an hour, do it again just to make sure all those bubbles are dissipating. Now the amount you want to fill these up is really dependent on you and how you want to finish this. My plan is to actually do a complete clear flood coat of this entire board. So any clear resin is going to seep into all these extra crevices, all the squares, level it all out and go across the sides, and the whole thing is going to be smooth on the top. If you don't want to do a flood coat and you want to basically, you know, leave this stained or painted or whatever, then I would probably take more, pay more attention to filling these up a little bit more uniformly than I did here. You've got some that are lower, some that are higher. Once you flood coat that with clear, you're probably not going to notice it, so I'm not going to worry about it. But anyway, we're going to let this set overnight. We'll come back and we'll tape up the bottom and put a layer of clear on, and then once that's done, we'll have a finished chessboard. We're back with this project. The Maker epoxy that I put in the squares has set up really nice, and it's super dry and it's cured. So what I'm going to do now is top coat this with some Total Boat tabletop, which is, again, tabletop specific resin, which is perfect for this application. Self-leveling and foams up nice. Now what I'm doing here is applying tape to the bottom of this around the perimeter because it's going to save me a lot of time post-processing having to scrape all the excess resin off the bottom. When you're doing a flood coat, you've got the resin coming out under the bottom and kind of like creating these little drip marks. So it's important to kind of see if you can take care of those drip marks by running your stick or something along the bottom to get rid of them. But inevitably they're going to be there. If you put down this tape and then heat it up after, when you're ready to take it off, it just takes all those drip marks off really easily, and it saves you extra time sanding and things like that. So if you're flood coating, I highly recommend taping the bottom of the perimeter. You don't have to tape the entire inside, just the around the sides where the drip marks are going to happen. And we're ready to go. So again, I've mixed up some Total Boat tabletop epoxy, and I could have used Total Boat's Maker epoxy, which I used for the center here, but I had some of this already opened, and it's kind of for this application, tabletop coating applications. So yeah, we're just going to go nuts and level it out. What I typically do is put it in the middle, let it go around the sides, and then I'll manually go around the sides, and then I'll use my hands to make sure it's worked in. That clear resin is going to fill in any voids that were in these squares by me not filling out the squares entirely. So it kind of takes care of that problem as well. And honestly, this thing will look much better coated in a full shell of resin than painting it anyway. All right, so I've got good coverage around the sides here, and I'm just working all this in to make sure that we're covered everywhere. And then once we are, we'll be kind of safe to leave it alone because the resin will kind of flow over the sides and set up really nicely and level itself. And to make it a little thinner, I can heat up the resin, and that'll help it move a little bit around and level out more. I've got my doors open, but you should really have a mask on if you're heating up resin like this. I'll probably come back in another 10 or 20 minutes and hit it with the torch again, just to make sure any bubbles that have kind of appeared, we get rid of. Other than that, we're literally just gonna leave this alone. We'll come back tomorrow and we'll take the tape off the back and we'll be done. All right, our flood coat is now dry. I'm gonna flip this bad boy over and put it down, and you'll see that those little drip marks are all along the tape. So what I'm gonna do is get my heat gun. And again, when you're doing this, you should normally be wearing a mask or having at least good ventilation, which I do. And I'm just gonna turn the heat up and just slowly heat up the drip marks, and then we'll peel the tape away. And it should theoretically all peel away with it. And that's gonna save us a lot of sanding. That's it. There's not one drip mark left there. They are all gone, so no sanding required. Pretty cool, right? All right, of course, if you want to get your own chessboard wood blank or any of our other pre-shaped CNC cut wood blanks, we have them at craftedelements.com, and just scroll over to the wood blank section and you can shop your heart out. This is our newest product, the chessboard, and we'll have this in, I think, a couple of different sizes. But again, it's at craftedelements.com. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you have any comments or questions, leave them below, and of course, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Thanks, guys.